Okay, so just a quick note before I start the video, because when I started recording, I was thinking about posting the video in one big one, but it took a lot longer and it's a much longer video than I expected it. So I decided to cut it into sections. The majors and then the 4 different minors are gonna be in separate videos. So I'm gonna, cut them off and post them separately, but I didn't know that, so there's no ending or no read-through when I'm starting with the decks or that part of the deck. So just, a heads up. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, because this was a task, and I kind of want to know if this was in any shape or form entertaining at least. So yeah, let's start with the video now. Hey guys, this is Ocean. This is going to be a very either interesting and fun video or just boring to you guys, but I really needed to make it even though the light is not the best, because I spent the last 2 days pulling out almost all of my tarot decks and just looking through all the cards and selecting my favorites, one for each position. And you can be like, why the hell did you do that? And I kind of had this idea ever since Simon started. I don't even know if it's not a challenge. Just he started a series in his Facebook group, and people are posting their favorites card for each week. And I was participating for a while, but I really just don't like Facebook. I mean, it's just there's just so much. I get lost because there's a lot of people and there's a lot of posts, and all I feel is that I keep missing the important ones. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with Facebook in that sense. It sucks that I can't keep up with people, but I just simply don't have time to check it, almost every day, which would be required. So yeah, I don't know. But ever since that series started there, I was wondering, what's my favorite full card, or what's my favorite, High Priestess, for example. And um, I eliminated a few decks right from the get-go, because I knew that there's no way that if there's any other deck on the table, I would choose that. It's just, let's be honest. And some of those decks might not even stay in my collection, but some will definitely stay, like the Tarot Vintage, because I love that deck, but it's an RWS deck, and I just, if you show me any other sort of illustration, I'm probably gonna pick that, especially because we're talking about my collection and I have decks that I love here. And my original idea was just to pick one deck, so to speak. But what I did is, because I quickly realized that I have more than one favorite, I have a second pile of cards, which is probably 3 decks, let's be honest. I mean, just looking at how tall that pile is, with seconds and second favorites or others that I would choose, because sometimes it was just so hard to not, to decide between cards. Sometimes it was obvious. Sometimes I felt like I don't have a favorite and I couldn't find one, which was interesting. And sometimes I pulled cards from decks that I don't intend to keep anymore. So that was also a very interesting one. So if this interests you, if you're curious about my pretty much ultimate favorite collage deck or mashup deck, or I don't even know how to call it, and the alternatives, then please watch this video and do tell me if you would ever be this crazy like me to do it, even if my collection is quite small. I have like I counted it, but forgot the number, because why not. It's about 25 or something like that tarot decks, so it's not even that much. But my back started hurting when I was sitting next to the table, because it just was so uncomfortable to have everything everywhere. So yeah, I can even imagine with people would do this with a larger collection, but if you do, please do that. I think it's not just a very interesting exercise, so to speak, but this made my tarot wishlist much shorter, because I realized I have so many decks that I'm excited to work with that I haven't, because I buy it, I film my walkthrough, which is my first initial way of connecting with a deck. I do that, and then I put it on the shelf because it requires work. Some of my, or most of my decks, I need to read the guidebook if I want to use it properly, and I just don't have that time. And then it just sits on my shelf. And this, because of this exercise, so to speak, or video idea, I was reminded that I have so many decks that I want to work with, and I haven't done anything. I haven't worked with them. That it made it so much easier to cut out decks that I was mildly or kind of interested, because I knew that if I would bring something in at this moment, that would need to be a deck that I would for sure reach for, that I would want to put in a work immediately. But that, I still have a lot of deck that I want to do that for right now. So it makes no sense for me to just buy, and not use. So I'm not saying, this is true for everybody, but for me, this was quite a nice eye opening in a good way, because I got excited for a lot of decks again that I was excited when I bought them, just, but they are sitting in boxes. And when decks are in boxes, I can't remember why I was so excited about them. So yeah, if you're ever hesitant about your collection, I think just pulling all of them out and just laying them out on a table together, all the decks, where you can just quickly flip them through and remind yourself why you like them, might be a good idea or useful thing to do. But I think what I'm gonna do is, just show you my ultimate favorite and then the alternatives and talk about them. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so let's end. What I forgot to say is that I haven't, checked this deck since yesterday that I finished putting together, so I might not even remember what decks are in it. And I'm going to count at the end which deck, how many decks were that I ended up in here, how many cards from those decks, because I'm quite curious who's going to be the winner. And that might not be the Smoke Ash and Embers, even though the first card is from that deck, because I was trying to be very honest about my selections. But this Fool is my ultimate favorite Fool. Not just because it has the cutest dragon and the snail ever, but because I love how they look at each other, how the dragon is like, hey, there's an opportunity and we can go there, and we don't know what is waiting for us, but we're excited. What this exercise was also very good at, to reassure or reaffirm for myself how I read the cards. What is it that I'm looking for in a card, and it will make it so much easier for me to decide on future decks if I want them or not. Because if I watch a walkthrough and I really like the art, or I just like what I see, but the bigger number of cards are not connecting with the way that I read the cards, then it's gonna be an easier way to say no, because in the end I wouldn't use it, no matter how beautiful or how well done the deck is. So yeah, this one embodies that positive side of the Fool that I really like, and how I like reading the Fool. So obviously this is going to be a very personal in that sense. But yeah, I'm gonna do that, even though you probably saw the next one. So I had quite a few other Fools, and I'm not gonna spend so much time explaining all of them, but I like the supernatural Fools because they act like a fool sometimes, but they did their best and they tried and they went and they took the opportunity, and they had that faith most of the time to go forward. I picked this one up just because I love how it looks. It's an absolute beautiful card, but I love how he or she, just never know, wears this, Tree of Life here. And I don't know, this one is purely aesthetic reasons. This one, I think, is just a wonderful way of looking at the naivety of the fool, because who the hell walks into a cemetery where zombies are coming out with a picnic basket and a flower wreath than a fool? But you just don't know. What if he's the one who's, controlling the zombies? You just never know. And with the fool, you have that. You don't know if the fool is a fool or a king, until this person tries what they're supposed to try. I love the Shadowland Tarot, and I'm not gonna list all the decks because I don't have that much time. But if you're interested in a deck and you don't know, you don't recognize it, just give me a timestamp and I'm gonna tell you which deck it was. Or if you can describe it, I probably gonna realize or recognize the deck. So this is the Shadowland, and I love that sometimes it is like, it represents very well that you're not supposed, in a situation where the Fool comes up, you're not supposed to use your head, you're supposed to use your intuition and your higher self or a cat to show you the way, and you should you should trust it. This one is special because it's blue from the books. I mean, that's how I read, because of the ponytail and what she went through and how trusting she was, even though she had so much doubt about her own abilities and her own journey. But she did that. She went through and she trusted things. So, yeah. And also, I think this one is very good because it kind of, even though she's blonde, it gives you that Little Mermaid story feel where you absolutely have to trust that what you're doing is good for you, because she left her own element and stepped into a completely different one and took on a journey that everybody else said that she was a fool to even attempt, because she was in love and she knew that she had to take this step, this leap of faith to start a completely new life. So yeah, these are my favorite fools. Okay, next one was the Magician. I'm not gonna keep it here because it's gonna be so much fun sorting back everything, and oh, I lost my little feather. And hoping that I don't lose any any cards. So this one, it was definitely for the aesthetic as well, but I kind of like how it's the importance of about the creation, about the power, about performing this, act of magic. The creating is more important than looking at the person who's the magician. It's not the self, it's important, but what they can do. And I kind of like, all there are runes, but I kind of feel like, and I haven't even checked which runes are there. Oh no, they are not runes. I was just thinking that is this rune, but no, these are the elemental symbols, which makes much more sense. Yeah, it's been a while that I actually looked closely at this deck, but the magician creates something out of already existing thing. It's not someone who creates something out of thin air like God. Even though did God do that? I don't even know. Those are philosophical questions, not for today. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite one because it represents everything that I'm looking for in a magician, and I just love it, the aesthetic of it. The other ones that I really liked were Chuck, even though he was an asshole in the end, but he was still God. And this is definitely a negative side of the magician, because when you have power, the responsibility for use it for good, or you just play with other people, is solely in your hands. You are the source, and you are the one who's responsible for what you're doing with your power. And he definitely fucked it up. And this is a new deck, so I haven't even read the official explanation, but I also really liked this idea that everybody can become a magician, because all you need is to have the right tools and a really high top hat, and then you can create and you can become a magician, which I really like. So I like that idea. And this one was also because I really like and associate magicians with old, more the pagan and the shamanistic way of living. You know, the shaman was the magician because they could connect the living to the dead, to the afterlife, or to the upper realms of the Yggdrasil, and just everything. I kind of there was so much I forgot from what I learned about shamanism, Korean, but in general. But I really like that, and I really like the idea of that. There's always a magician in a community because it's a needed position. So yeah, I just love the practical side of this card as well. And yeah, see, another deck that I really want to work with, and it just sits on my shelf for years now because it will require time to dive deep into it. So there's changes are needed. Okay, so we have the magician, and then we have the high priestess and Rowena. I think she's just she's just perfect for this role. And normally, another deck, the Light Seers High Priestess, which is on the other pile, would have been my favorite one. But I think Rowena and her journey and what she can do and how she conducts herself, always keeping secrets, but knowing everything about everybody. And yes, using those information for her advantage as well, but having all these secrets and having being a witch, uh, and that kind of a witch that you're not supposed to mess with because I don't know, for me she is the perfect high priestess. If I could be any, because I'm not a high priestess for sure, but she is my card, the connection with the tarot. But if I could be anyone, I would love to be her, even though how things are ended and things like that. But there was quite a few, obviously, other cards because, like I said, I love this one. It's an absolute beautiful one, my favorite from the deck. And every time I see her, I'm just happy because of the colors and because of how everything is done. I think she's perfect. And yeah, runes. Oh, I don't know. I just love it. And this one also from the Spacious Tarot was, this was a deck that I was like, what is this? Why is there, a shelf and a pearl? And then I was like, oh, wait, that's the moon. And, you use these shelves to listen to your own heartbeat and whatever. But we grew up as well that we were told that when you listen and you keep these sort of a shelf to your ear, you're going to hear the ocean. Because it sounds like that. And it's just, I think it's a lovely reminder that how much we are part of nature, even though we're pretending we're not. And the simplicity of the card, but the deepness with the sky, night sky, and the moon, and listening to yourself. I think it's just a brilliant one. So this was very close, and that's why I was like, I need to include this one. Another one, also not surprising, from the Raven's Prophecy, because that's a special deck, is looking into a mirror but seeing something else, seeing the I think this is, by the way, the sky from the Nine of Pentacles. I think one of the nines, either the Nine of Cups or the Nine of Pentacles, something like that. The happy one of the happiness cards. And you're in the dark, but if you look at it, you see something else, and I think it's just wonderful. And this was more of a cheeky from the Steampunk Tarot, and I love her. Love her expression, because she's like, I can tell you your future, I can tell you all the secrets, but are you brave enough? Are you really wanna know? Do you really want to ask those questions? Are you able to handle the answers? So I think I love her. I love the way she looks. So yeah, that's one of my favorite high priestesses. And this little feather keeps going away. Okay, dogs are hopefully finished. So we can, move on to the Empress. And this Empress might be a card that you look at and you go like, what is this? And this is a magical forest from the Raven's Prophecy from the books, and I think it's the perfect representation of the Empress energy because it's a magical forest, but it gives you everything you need, and it takes care of you. And I just, if you haven't read the books, you don't really know what I mean. Do read the books. I highly recommend them. But it's the easiest way for me. The Empress is nature, Mother Nature. And okay, dogs are not finished, so sorry. And I love, and I have other cards where that is evident when people are connected to nature and they represent Mother Nature. But this forest is absolutely the representation for me, for Mother Nature, for the Empress. And the other ones are only two cards. So one of them is, I don't know, I just like how she's unbothered, and she looks at you and she sees everything. At least that's how I interpret her gaze. And she can create life and she can protect everything. And she's definitely not someone who cares about how she looks or what other people think about her, because she has much more important things to do. She needs to take care of life in her own realm, and I think that's a beautiful notion, and I think she's beautiful for that especially. And the other one is this card, which is nature with everything, the tree, the clouds, just I don't know, the light. This is the Empress domain, nature, and I think that's a lovely name for the card as well. So yeah, these are my favorite Empresses. Okay, and I was really not holding back on using the same card from the same deck, even though at first I was thinking about limiting myself, so there would be all the deck, but I was like, that's not that wouldn't be true. So like I said, I'm quite curious. I mean, which deck is going to win? I have a few ideas. Lightseer's Raven's Prophecy, and I don't even know, maybe the Ostara Tarot, but we will see. And the Emperor also, because of how the story goes in the books and what it means to be an emperor, but it's connected to Gansi. And even though he's just a teenager in the books, he's someone who you would call an old soul, someone who just demands respect and attention when they enter a room. Everyone just falls in line naturally because he's a natural born leader. And when I think about that, that's how I would imagine a good emperor, someone who is there to make the tough decisions and has his doubts, because obviously Genzi has his doubts too, but who is ready to make the required sacrifices for the good of the people. And maybe it's, I'm overthinking things, but that's the emperor for me. And like I said, it was very eye-opening and very helpful thing to do this, to see what I really think about certain cards. And that's why I love this one as well, because he just looks at that kind leader, not someone who's abusing power, but someone who stands stable and stand tall in their position because they are there to serve the people, because they understand that their position is not to rule over but to serve the people. And I think a lot of leaders these days are forgetting that. Even though most of them are elected into the position, they still think that they are above the regular people, which just kind of sucks. And there's two ravens here, and which obviously I was thinking about Odin as well, even though Odin can be an asshole, I'm sorry. And the other one also him. Please don't go away, tiny feather. And I mean, look at him. Even though, I mean, he looks really awesome and cool and everything. And I love the colors of the card, but he definitely gives off that for, he's strong, he's gonna kick your ass if it's needed, but he's not going to slap you just for the sake of enjoying that. Okay, next one is, okay, this feather is trying to go away because I said please stay there. And that was my, this is my latest one that I picked up because I grew up with my mom telling us that, when we find a feather on the ground, it's a message from the angels that, we're being seen, we're being loved, we're being taken care of. So all of us are picking up feathers left and right. I don't always pick them up because I'm just acknowledging that it's there, and I'm thanking the universe or whatever that for that sign of being heard, taken care of, and loved. And I think that's a wonderful thing to give your children, to interpret signs like that, and then sometimes leave them there because I think that someone else will need it as well. But we have the Hierophant, and she became my favorite one because how I read the Hierophant is knowledge, and the knowledge that we pass on to in the generation that can be used to teach people and teach children to do better, to remember where we came from, because it's important to keep account of what was before. Because if you look at what's happening in the world, there are very awful and scary similarities between what happened around the world wars and what's happening now with a lot of things. And it's mind-blowing for me that some people are like, oh, that didn't even happen, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And for some reason we are not taught the important things in school anymore, I think, about history, because it's just, it would be a whole lot of rant, but we need to remember the horrible things as well, so we might not repeating them. At least let's hope. But where's the time? Okay, how many I have? I have quite a few. Okay. Yeah, like another one where I had quite a lot of lovely cards. This is a more negative side, the fake news, when people are only getting their information from unreliable sources. So it's very important to get those accounts from reliable and trustworthy sources. And you have to find them, these sources for yourself. Another one is just so cute. I think it's, a tree creature teaching all these little creatures about who knows what, but sharing their knowledge, which is deep and well rooted, which is very much an appreciation. I mean, I have appreciation for these cards. So yeah, I think, and also I just love how intricate and how very detailed this card is. And I really need to use this deck because I haven't used it for such a long while that I kept forgetting which card is which. So I also need to find an actual alcoholic-based marker that stays on the card, because everything that I tried so far rubs off, and I want to, number them, because I don't have time to always just go like, oh, what is this? What is this? Even though I was hoping that I would learn it, and I think I would have learned the deck if I only use it, but I have more. I like the grandparents teaching, grandchildren about their lives, sharing the knowledge aspect of this one. It's a similar stance than what we see, in the traditional one, but it has a different meaning, and I really appreciate that. It's a very simple one, sharing your knowledge, showing light, shining light on things that needs to be shine light on, but I'm biased. And also the ancestor for this deck, which I kind of thought was a high priestess when I first got the deck, but I just love, because this is a reminder that how important it is to, find your roots, connect with what's happened before you, and use that knowledge, like I said with this one. But I especially love the aspect of writing, down, taking account, keeping an account in this card. That's my one. It's my favorite. The next one is the Lovers, which at first I was like, oh, I was thinking about picking another deck and another card, but then I remembered that this was the card why I bought this deck. And their relationship is, the choice, the sacrifice that they need to make. But in a way, it has a destined feeling as well. Because when the little prince saw the rose, he fell in love, and there was just no option for him not to love the little prince. But the rose had to, needed time to warm up. And I know how, ridiculous it sounds, but the story is absolutely beautiful. And it has everything that I look for in the Lovers card, because I don't just look at it as love, but I look at it choosing that love and making sure that you're choosing the right one, what's right for you. And that's why I had a few other cards like that, and that was strongly my contendant for this, because it definitely has that. This reminds me of the card of the deck that I learned tarot with. And even though a lot of people are like reading in those in that group that I studied it, read it like, oh, he's gonna cheat, but it's more about choosing the right person and not the more prettier or more richer or whatever. Don't choose something that, or someone that you think would be the good fit for you. Choose someone that you feel is the right fit for you. And those are two very distinctive things. And a lot of people don't even know, because I realized and I see that a lot happening, that people settle in relationships where they think they should be in, not where they feel they should be in. And I think that's just really sad. And I love this deck, and I love this card, and it's so intricate, and there's just so many tiny details that I love looking at. And like I said, it represents well what I look for in the Lovers. Another one, I just love how it looks. They look so peaceful. And because of the times we're still living, where being gay is still not something that everybody can just be like, oh yeah, who cares about. It can be a very, very hard decision to say that, yes, I'm choosing you, even though there's going to be repercussions, there's going to be consequences for both of us if we choose this love. But we have to, because this is how we are able to be our authentic self. So it has a sad notion for that, because I know that for some people, being gay and being out or being anything else is not a problem anymore, but that's still not the bigger percentage. And I don't know when we're fucking finally gonna get, done with this. I don't even know if we can ever. I'm hoping, but there are just so many people raised in hate that I don't know. And this is one also, like when you're, you're different, but you're choosing each other. And just love this. I love the notion of it. Because, you're putting together your different aspects and creating something whole. And also with this card as well, because they are different creatures, different species from the looks of it, but they still choose each other. And I like that choice aspect I need that choice aspect of the Lovers, because I more often read non-romantic readings, I more often have that then. And when you're doing a reading about your career and the Lovers come up, you're not going to be like, oh, there's going to be love coming up with with your position. No, you're going to, that's how I read it. It's a reminder for you to choose what's right for you, no matter what other people say. Okay, Chariot. I love this one because, and I looked through all the decks, and it's interesting that how many of them are holding the leash. And how I learned the Chariot is when you're able to balance your intellectual and your emotional and your emotional side in such a way that you can actually move forward, because they are balanced. You are on the right track, and you don't need to hold the leash very strongly because everything is in perfect harmony, and that's why you can, move forward. So this one is very much representing that, how I read the Chariot. But okay, how many I have? Oh God, I have. Okay, I had to pick just for the sake of how much I love this car and how much it was there for Dean along for the whole series. Just for that. Also, I very like this one. I very much like this one because it's a reminder that the path the Chariot is on is a narrow one, and you only need a tiny pebble, or in this case a rock under the water, to get you off track. You have to pay attention to balance things, to follow that road, because it's not something like that. It's not a journey you start and then you're on it and you're set for life. But there's no way. You have to constantly pay attention, and that's why this was also a very good one. Okay, like dragons, but this tiny dragon is traveling on a wish, whatever seed, I don't know what it's called in English, and the dandelion seed. And I think that's just wonderful, because sometimes your wishes are the one that moves you and helps you move forward. And so I like that notion as well. And I had to pull this one as well because there's a tiny snail traveling on a much faster bird. And that's a reminder that choose your way of transportation wisely. Don't stick to, the slower, more harder way to advance in something if you have a way to shortcut in a good way. This is the smart shortcutting, not a sneaky or bad one. And this one was also a card where I just like how you can't go forward if you don't know what you want. You have to have those desires. The the intellectual and the emotional have to point the same direction. Otherwise, you're gonna just get stuck. Okay. Next one. Oh God, this dog. Strength. Didn't think that I would choose this one, but because at first I was like, what is this? But I think this is a brilliant card because it shows how much strength is required sometimes, that when you fell apart, you have to put yourself together, and you're never gonna be the same after that happens. But it doesn't mean that you're useless. You're gonna be stronger because of all the damage that you endured, and this represents endurance and what's the other word, resilience for me. And I think it represents physical and mental strength or emotional strength as well, because I read the strength card in all the three ways. Sometimes you need your physical strength to deal with the situation, or not using your physical strength, but sometimes you need your emotional strength, sometimes you need your mental, depending on what the reading is all about. Though I'm never gonna say, go ahead and punch someone. Just sometimes you need those things, and sometimes you're gonna get sorry, you're gonna get scars, and you're gonna get injured. But if you're able to pick yourself up together and sew yourself back together, you're gonna be a much stronger person. And this is a reminder of that. And I think that in that sense, this is a beautiful strength card. And the other ones that I have quite a few again, because this is a card that's been represented in a way that I read the card. This one, being able to bloom and exist in such a dire and hard environment also requires strength. And this one, the prince with the fox, it requires for him to be able to tame the fox, he needed, patience and strength in himself that he can do that. But the fox needed that strength to allow someone to tame him. And I think sometimes this card is a good reminder for being strong. Sometimes is accepting help and accepting someone who wants to improve and help you, if this makes any sense. And this one is a good reminder for your inner strength. Sometimes you need this stronger side of you. Sometimes you need the more gentle one, and you need to remember which one you need, and you need to learn that. So I like that one as well. I mean, there's a dragon, so yeah. And sometimes when you're in a position you need to protect, I don't even know, you just don't know if it's this person's heart, or because it's lower than the heart would be, or it's just someone's heart. And there's also cities up there, so there's a responsibility for taking care of others, and you need strength to carry those as well. Also, when you're in the position of strength, you need to look out to be able to help others who need that. And I think that's a good reminder as well, that with strength and with a position. And I hate that this card is kind of like, you have a responsibility. And I wish everybody would think that. And this is the same notion, that when you're in a position where you can help, you have the strength to help someone, even if they are bigger. But if they are in a predicament and you have the key to help them get away, you should. I think that's just lovely. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess this video is going to take forever. Hermit. I'm trying to be, quicker. The Hermit, I mean, this dragon and the lamp, being in a cave, kind of protecting your knowledge. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I went with because of the dragon. That's my dragon. What else do I have? Let's see. Okay, this was my non okay, so this was my second deck. So this was the first way of looking at the Hermit, and I was like, wow. And I just remember how much I liked the steps, the lantern, but being elevated by your knowledge and the knowledge you acquired. And I love that. Also, I just love the simplicity and the representation of the lantern. I love this one as well, because I kind of like the notion of the Hermit being older, because for me it makes more sense that you would build on the life experience. And I just love their eyes. They kind of look both the same. And there's a library and everything, and it's so nice. So it's just beautiful. I love this card. And Bobby, because he was the source of knowledge, and he was kind of reluctant to share, which sometimes happens when you pull the Hermit card. Is not always about going inside and staying away from the world. Sometimes it's a reminder that you have knowledge that other people need, and you need to start sharing it. And Bobby was I think Bobby is a really good example for that. Okay, next one is the Wheel of Fortune. And this one was my favorite because it is a reminder that you are the captain of your own pirate ship, and you're supposed to stand at the wheel and steer it in the direction you want it. But sometimes there are bigger powers or plays that this makes no sense, but bigger forces that play. That was the one that I was looking for. And even though you do your best, sometimes you can't do anything because it wasn't meant to be, and sometimes your ship sinks. And I think that that's the perfect example for the Wheel of Fortune and how it works. And I have a few because I love this card, and it was well done. And I love that this is a fortune fairy, because it's an important reminder that wishing and hoping is also, that mental state is important. I think that's just so. This is a more negative when you let the wheel just turn you and you don't do anything because you're like, you're not behind the wheel, you're on the wheel. This also just because it kind of like looks like either a pocket watch or a steampunk engine. I don't know. I just love how it looks. This is just for pure aesthetics. I just love how it looks. And I love the, threads of fate and the three, were they witches? I can't remember. But how they don't care about your wishes. They're just gonna do what's meant for it to happen. It's gonna happen. And you sometimes, you cannot change that. And this one was something else that I really liked because of the reminder of the all changing seasons. Because even though the Wheel of Fortune is a positive card, sometimes it just serves as a reminder that when you're going through shit, that shit will end at some point, because that's the nature of things. Everything is cyclical. When you're going through shit for so long, at some point it's going to start getting better, because that's just how it is. But also it's a reminder that when you're going through a very positive period of time, to really take out everything that you can, not in a selfish way, but use it to your advantage, because it's not gonna be like that forever. There's no such thing as you born and your life is just one straight happy line. That's not gonna happen. So you have to prepare for the falls and winters as well. So I like that. Okay. Next one is justice. And however, justice is the man-made justice, because I think I think with judgment is more about, leveling up and closing a cycle and all that jazz. But justice is when we as a society decide that something is just, something is fair, and this is also, it connects to all the legal things in a person's life. And it's supposed to be blind. It's a very supposed to be card, unfortunately. But also, it's just, for me, it represents how I read justice. That being just should be, this is a very optimistic way of looking at justice. Let's just say that. And I only have two cards, because this one is, okay, I haven't read the guidebook, but it kind of feels like when you cause pain, you're gonna get it back. So, it's more of the eye for an eye way of thinking, which I don't agree. But also, don't be surprised that if you cut, half a snake, that with the dying breath, they're gonna bite you and poison you. But also, snake, even though snakes are doing what their nature is, so it's not fair to put the blame on the snake. Don't really, go anywhere near snakes and be surprised if you get bitten. That's something I always find it baffling when people go to forests and just wild nature, and they surprised that an animal attacks them, and I'm like, why the fuck did you go there? And I'm also very, very pissed off, and then there's that animal is being hunted down because they killed the man, and I'm like, this is why the hell did you go there? You shouldn't, and you would be safe. It wasn't necessary for you to be there. But whatever. And I like this one because of the Egyptian. Is it in mythology? What is this? Is it in the Book of the Dead? I don't even know. I just know that it's Egyptian, and I think it's, oh god, it's Isis. Oh man, I don't really remember my Egyptian gods anymore. Oh, but when you die, your heart is measured against a feather, and your heart's supposed to be lighter. I know I would fail this one and be doomed to eternal suffering, so I'm very much hopeful that this is not the afterlife that's actually waiting for us, because that would suck. Okay, next one is the Hanged Man. And how I read the Hanged One is not really what I hear. A lot of people are read it is that you need to just surrender and don't resist, and you're gonna be like, you need that different change and point of view. How I read it is that you are in a situation where you're upside down, you're not at your place, and you need to change that. because you allowed yourself to end up hanging upside down from a tree, and that's not a good and comfortable position, because all the blood is going to your head, and you're not, if anyone is finding that comfortable, then okay, but I don't. And this card just shows how your vision and your point of view is just not right, because when you look at it, you're like, okay, these are two birds, but what the hell is happening here? Where That's one house, but what is that even? You have to change your point of view back where it was supposed to be for you to be able to move forward. So for me, this one is the perfect hangman. And I have this one as well, because even though he looks chill, because he does, I'm not gonna say he doesn't, it also a reminder that, you're in a position where you're not comfortable, because don't tell me that he's comfortable, he's not. And this one is also a good one, because sometimes we're putting ourselves in this. We are most of the time letting ourselves to end up here, but sometimes we're keeping ourselves in this suspended, position where, you can't really be free if you have to carry your head around. And also, it's raining, and this tiny mouse shouldn't be on a dandelion. This mouse needs to find shelter, but fear or whatever is keeping them hanging there. So yeah, for me this makes sense. Like I said, completely my deck, so to speak.